Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Salahuddin al-Britani, and this is my story of how I became a Muslim. So, throughout my childhood, I've always had a belief in God, always had a belief in a creator. And because of these anger issues, these anger problems, and not having a solution, not having a way out, I thought to myself, I believe in a creator. I believe he's created me. He's created everything. What does this creator want from me? Is he someone who is putting me in this state of depression almost to, I don't know, try and have some pleasure out of it? Or, am I doing things wrong? So I started thinking about maybe becoming a religious person, because I already have the belief of God inside of me. I need to try and get on a straight path. I need to do something with my life. I need to, wake up and do something. So I started, obviously, reading the Bible, because the area that I'm from, the majority of the people, they're not religious, but if they have any religion at all, it will be Christianity. So I read the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I found that both books contradict one another. And I don't know, I kind of saw myself as saying, well, if God has a religion or God has a way or a system for people, then it can't be something which is corrupted or something which doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. So I then, after reading the Old Testament and the New Testament, I made a decision that, look, Christianity isn't for me. I don't think it's right. I don't think Jesus being the Son of God or God himself is something which is feasible or something which you can believe. Then I started looking into Judaism, and I found a lot of things which were very interesting, and it came with the Old Testament. A lot of the things in the Old Testament match with the Jewish laws, and I was thinking to myself, well, this is kind of taking me somewhere. So I'm going to investigate. I'm going to look. I looked more into Judaism. And then I fell in love with like the practices, like how strict they are, what they do in their lives. Their lives are dedicated to God. So I started looking into it. I started practicing myself. I started trying to do as much as possible, like from the Jewish scriptures, trying to live a kosher lifestyle. And then I went to a synagogue to speak with a rabbi about Judaism, maybe convert. And then I had like a discussion with him, with the rabbi, and it seemed like he was trying to put me off, like, this religion's not for you. I don't think, even if you were to convert, you won't be seen as a real Jew because you're not born into the Jewish faith. All these things, and even said to me that, you can't be a Jew or you can't convert to Judaism if you don't learn the Hebrew language fluently. I was like, well, what about if I die in this state whilst I'm trying to learn? What's going to happen? Because I always had in my mind that if I die, I'm going to die in a way which is not pleasing to the one that made me. So what do? And then I after that, I was still persistent. I let my guard down a bit with practicing it. Like I kind of fell off it a bit, but I still had that belief that I wanted to become a Jew. And because in Nottingham there's only one or two synagogues, one which is Orthodox and the other which is not that practicing, or they bit more moderate sort of thing. So I don't know, I kind of like shocked that he's saying this to me, he's trying to put me off the religion of God. I'm like, how can you be religious? How can you be someone who has good, or believe you have the correct way, but you don't want to correct others? So obviously I just typed in on Google randomly, where's the fastest growing religion in the world? It came up with Islam. And at this point I'm saying to myself, why is Islam the fastest growing religion? All these Muslims, you hear it in the media, you hear it in the newspapers, you hear it on the TV, Muslims killing non-Muslims because they believe that that they should be taken over the world, they need to have their system in place. They're really disrespectful towards Britain and British people, and obviously being kind of patriotic. I was like, I didn't want to know about Islam. I didn't want to even think about going down that route. But and also I remember myself saying that I will never become a Muslim. Even on this journey of becoming a religious person, I said I'd never become a Muslim. And it was really, it was something, I don't know. I kept on hearing about Islam, the fastest growing religion in the world. And I met a Muslim at college, and he's not a practicing Muslim, or his family are Muslim, but I'd ask him, I hear all this negativity about your religion. I hear Islam does this, Islam does that, blowing up people, killing people, all this kind of thing. I says, you're so nice to me, talk to me about Islam. Tell me what Islam is. Obviously, he told me that Islam is very misunderstood. It's a religion which is very misunderstood. The media doesn't have the correct image about Islam. They don't know anything about Islam. And he says, why don't you read the Quran in English? He says, get a copy of the Quran wherever you can and read it. So I started looking on Google, reading ayat of the Quran, and mainly scientific miracles of the Quran, where Allah is talking about the creation of a baby inside the woman's womb, stuff like this. And I was just thinking to myself, this is incredible. This is something which it goes with modern day science that we have today. And if you think about it, a book that's 1,400 years old, and you don't even have all this technology, but you have a man called Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's talking about all these things. He was someone who was an Arab living in the desert. He had no education, he had no knowledge of any world scriptures or anything like this. He had no knowledge about hardly anything, and he's coming out with verses from the Quran like this and saying this is revelation from God. So you either have to say to yourself, this guy, Muhammad, he is either someone who, he's lucky, he's making a good guess with what he's saying, or he's a prophet of God like he claimed to be. And, obviously I went down that route of looking into the biography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reading about who he was, what his character was, what he did in his lifetime. So obviously I after reading that, I wanted to become a Muslim. Being as a Muslim, a lot of the habits that I've had have gone. I don't womanize anymore. I don't drink alcohol. I'm careful about what I eat. Everything has to be halal. I make sure that I pray on time. I make sure I do every bit of action that is needed in order to have the prayers accepted by Allah. So making sure that the wudu is on point. The ghusl, if you need to make ghusl, make sure that's done correctly. And just studying about Islam in general, and just trying to be the person that I am, but without the bad habits of swearing, etc. and stuff like this. So my advice for someone who's non-Muslim, who may be thinking about Islam or is just thinking about religion in general, is basically read the Quran for yourself and don't have any influence from any other people saying, well, this verse in the Quran means this or this means this. Read it for yourself, make your own decision, make your own understanding of it. Because if you're someone who's looking for the truth, Allah will guide you to the truth. And if you're someone who's looking for a fault or something which you can tarnish Islam, then it's not going to, you're going to find that. Because whatever you're searching for, you're going to find. So if you're looking sincerely for the truth, alhamdulillah, start with the Quran in English or whatever language it is that you speak. And also, don't take your advice on what Islam is from the media or non-Muslims. Take your advice from the Muslims, the same as if you was ill and you had illnesses, or if you had any problems with your health, you'll go to a doctor and ask them. The same way you come to the Muslims to understand about Islam, and inshallah Allah will guide you to Islam. And I would also like to say Jazakallah khair for Roadside to Islam for the interview. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.